statue of Sri Krishna. This is an example of how it due to ecstatic love. In Srimad Bhagavatam, 7th canto, 4th chapter, verse 40, Prahlad Maharaj says that even in his childhood, when he was loudly speaking the glories of the Lord, he used to dance just like a shameless madman. And sometimes, being fully absorbed in thought on the pastimes of the Lord, he used to imitate such pastimes. This is an instance of a devotee's being almost like a madman. Similarly, it is said that the great sage Narada was so ecstatically in love with Krishna that he would sometimes dance naked, and sometimes his whole body would become stunned. Sometimes he would laugh very loudly, sometimes he would cry very loudly, sometimes he would remain silent, and sometimes he would appear to be suffering from some disease, although he had no disease. This is another instance of becoming like a madman in the ecstasy of devotion. In Hodaya, it is stated that when Prahlad Maharaj was thinking himself unfit to approach the Supreme Personality of Godhead, he immersed himself in great distress and unhappiness. As such, he used to shed tears and lie down unconscious. The students of a great devotee once talked among themselves in this way: "My dear godbrothers, our spiritual master, after seeing the lotus feet of the Lord, has thrown himself into the fire of lament. Because of this fire, the water of his life has almost dried away. Let us now pour the nectar of the holy name through his ears, and by our doing so, the swan of his life may again show signs of life." When Lord Krishna went to the city of Shonitapur to his son Bama and to cut off all his hands, Uddhava, being separate from Krishna and thinking of his fight, was almost completely stunned into unconsciousness. Would someone else like to read?
Yeah, I can go.
Jai, thank you.
When a devotee is fully in love with the Supreme Personality of Godhead, there may be the following symptoms due to his feeling of separation from the Lord: the feverish condition of the body, lack of sleep, non-attachment, eterness, appearing disease, madness, unconsciousness, and sometime death. As far as feverish condition of the body is concerned, Uddhava, my dear great sage, the lotus flower that is friend of sun may be of distress for us. The fire in the ocean may be the cause of some burning sensation, and in the Indivara, the friend of the moon, may distress us in the various ways. We do not mind, but the most regrettable factor is that all of them remind us of Krishna. This is this is giving us too much distress. This is an instance of the feverish condition Krishna. Some of the devotees went to see Krishna at Dwarka and were detained at the door. At the at the door, I said, "My dear Krishna, O friend of Pandus, the swan, as the swan loves to dive into the water among the lily flowers and would die if taken from the water, so we wish only to be with you. Our limbs are shrinking and fading because you have been taken away from us." The king Bahula, although very uncomfortable in his palace, began sorry, although very comfortably situated in his palace, began to think that nights were long and distressing because of the separation from Krishna. King Yudhishthira once said, "Krishna, the chariot driver of Arjuna, is the only relative of mine. Therefore, my mind is becoming maddened day and night with the separation from his lotus feet. I do not know how to situate myself or where shall I go to attain any steadiness of mind." This is another example of lack of sleep. Some of coward friends of Krishna said, "Dear Krishna, O enemy of Mura demon, Just think of your personal Raktaka. Simply because he saw the peacock feather, he's now closing his eyes and no longer attentive to the pasturing of the cows. Rather, he left them away pasture and has not even bothered to use his stick to control them. This is an instance of mental imbalance due to separation from Krishna. When Lord Krishna went to the capital of King Yudhishthira, Uddhava was so affected by the fire of separation from Sri Krishna that his perspiration from his inflamed body and the tears his eyes poured from him, and in his way he became completely stunned. When Krishna left the city Dwarka to seek out the Shamakanta jewel, and he was late returning home, Uddhava became so afflicted that the symptoms of the disease become manifest on his body. Actually, due to his excessive ascetic love for Krishna, became known in the Dwarka as crazy. To his great fortune, on that day, Uddhava's reputation as a crazy fellow was firmly established. Uddhava's craziness was practically proved when he went to Rabitaka hill to minutely observe the congested black clouds. He was disturbed. In his disturbed condition, he began to pray to these clouds, and he expressed his jubilation by bowing down before Uddhava informed Krishna, my dear leader of the dynasty, your servant in Vrindavana cannot sleep at night thinking of you. So now they are all lying down on the bank of the Yamuna, almost paralyzed. It is, and it appears that they are almost dead because of their breathing is very slow. This is an instance of becoming unconscious due to separation from Krishna. Should I go ahead?
Yes, please. It's almost finished.
Krishna was once informed, you are the life and the soul of all inhabitants of Vrindavana. So because of you, so because you have left Vrindavana, all of the servitors of your lotus feet, there are suffering. It is like if the lakes filled with the lotus flower have dried up from the scorching heat of separation from you. In the example given here, the inhabitants of Vrindavana are compared to the lakes filled with the lotus flowers, and because of scorching heat lakes along with the lotus flowers of their leaves are being burned up, and the swans and in the lake who are compared to the vitality of the inhabitants of Vrindavana are no longer desiring to live there. In other words, because of the scorching heat, the swans are leaving the lakes, and the metaphor is used to describe the condition of the devotees separated from Krishna. Hari Bol.
Uh, oh, yeah, it's only another.
Hmm. Okay, will I go on?
Yes, please, Prabhu. Jai.
Chapter 39, Ways of Meeting Krishna. When Krishna and his devotees meet, the meeting is technically called yoga or linking with the Lord. Such meetings between Krishna and his devotees can be divided into three classes, namely perfection, satisfaction, and state. When the devotee meets Krishna in great eagerness, that state of meeting is called perfection. In the Krishna Karnamrita, Bilvamangala Thakur describes how Krishna meets his devotee with peacock feather on his head, with Marakata jewels on his chest, and with his ever enchanting smile, his restless, his very delicate body. In the 10th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam 38, chapter verse 34, Sukadev Goswami tells King Parikshit, my dear king, as soon as Akrura, the chariot driver, saw Lord Krishna, his elder brother Balaram, in Vrindavan, he immediately got down from the chariot and, being greatly afflicted by affection for the transcendental Lord, to offer respectful obeisances. These are some of the instances of perfectional meetings with Krishna. When a devotee meets Krishna after long separation, the meeting is one of satisfaction. In the first Bhagavatam 11 chapter verse 10, it is stated that when Lord Krishna returned to his capital Dwarka, the inhabitants said, "Dear Lord, if you remain in foreign countries for so long, we shall certainly be bereft of seeing your smiling face. And upon observing your face, we, your eternal servitors, become greatly satisfied. All the anxieties of our existence are immediately mitigated. If we cannot see you because you are long absent from Dwarka, then it will be impossible for us to live any more." This is an instance of satisfaction in meeting Krishna after a long separation. Krishna's personal servant Daruka, seeing Krishna at the door of Dwarka, forgot to offer him his respects with folded hands. When a devotee ultimately situated in association with Krishna, his position is called steadiness in devotional service. The steady position in devotional service is explained in the book known as the Hamsadutta. It is described there how Akrura, who was considered by the gopis to be terror personified, would talk with Krishna about the activity of Kuru dynasty. A similar steady position was held by Uddhava, the disciple of Brihaspati. He would always massage the lotus feet of Krishna while kneeling down on the ground before him. When a devotee is engaged in the service of the Lord, he is said to have reached the attainment of yoga. The English equivalent word of yoga is linking up. So actually linking up with Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, begins when the devotee renders service unto him. Devotees situated in the transcendental rasa of servitorship render a particular service whenever there is an opportunity. Sometimes they sit down in front of Krishna to receive orders. Some persons are reluctant to accept this level of devotional service as actual bhakti yoga. And as some of the Puranas, also this servitorship in devotional service to Krishna is not accepted as the actual bhakti yoga system. Srimad Bhagavatam has clearly indicated that the servitor relationship with Krishna is the actual beginning of yoga realization. In the 11th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, 3rd chapter, verse 32, it is stated that when devotees are engaged in the discharge of bhakti yoga, sometimes they cry from thinking of Krishna. Sometimes they laugh, sometimes they become jubilant, and sometimes they talk in very uncommon ways. Sometimes they dance and sometimes they sing, sometimes they are actually engaged in the service of the Lord, and sometimes they sit down silently as if absorbed in trance. Similarly, in the 7th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, chapter 7, verse 34, Prahlad Maharaj says to his friends, "My dear friends, as soon as pure devotees of Lord Krishna hear the transcendental pastimes of the Lord, who is the eternal reservoir of pastimes, or hear about his transcendental qualities, they become overwhelmed. Ecstatic symptoms are manifested in their bodies. They shed tears, talk falteringly, glorify the Lord in a loud voice, and chant and dance in ecstasy. These ecstasies are always there, but sometimes they overcome all limits, and the symptoms become manifest to all. In the process of it, there are 6 items: to accept everything favorable for devotional service, to reject everything unfavorable for devotional service, to believe that Krishna will always give protection, and to identify oneself with Krishna's devotees, always to feel inability without the help of the Lord, and always to think oneself inferior to Krishna, even though one may have full capacity to his own. When one is substantially convinced that he is always protected by Krishna in all circumstances, that feeling is called reverential devotion. Reverential devotion is executed in relation with the Supreme Personality of Godhead and with his other protected devotees. When Lord Krishna was residing in Dwarka, some of the elderly members of the Yadu put some important matter before him. At such a time, Krishna would carefully give attention to those matters, and if there were some humorous topics mentioned, Krishna would immediately respond with a smiling face. Sometimes when Krishna was executing his duty, this assembly known as Sudharma, he would ask the elderly members for good advice. By such activities, he manifests as the Supreme Personality of God, the Supreme Spiritual Master, superior intelligence and supreme power, protector and maintainer. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Chapter 40, Reverential Devotion of Sons and Other Subordinates. True reverential devotion is exhibited by persons who think themselves subordinate to Krishna and by persons who think themselves sons of Krishna. The best example of this subordination are Sarana, Gada, Subhadra. They were all members of Yadu dynasty. and they always used to think themselves protected by Krishna. Similarly, Krishna's sons such as Pradyumna, Tarudeshna, Samba felt the same way. Krishna had many sons in Dwaraka. He begot 10 sons by each of his 16,108 queens, and all of these sons, headed by Pradyumna, Charudeshna, and Samba, used to think themselves always protected. Krishna's son dined with him, they would sometimes open their mouths for Krishna to feed them. Sometimes, when Krishna would pat one of his sons, the son would sit on Krishna's lap, and while Krishna was blessing the son's head by smelling it, the others would shed tears, thinking how much pious activities he must have performed in his previous life. Out of Krishna's many sons, Pradyumna, a son of Krishna's chief queen Rukmani, is considered that bodily features resembles Krishna's exactly. Pure devotee of Krishna's glorifies Pradyumna because he is so fortunate, like father, like son. There is a description in Harivamsa of Pradyumna's activity when he kidnapped Prabhavati. Pradyumna addressed Prabhavati at that time and said, "My dear Prabhavati, just look at the head of our family, Sri Krishna. He is Vishnu himself, the supreme driver of Garuda. He is our supreme master. Because we have become so proud and confident of his protecting us, we sometimes do not even care about fighting with Tripurari, Lord Shiva. These are two kinds of devotees in awe and veneration. The Lord subordinates and his sons. The servitor in the abode of Dwaraka always worshipped Krishna as the most respectable and revered personality of Godhead. They are captivated by Krishna because of his super excellent opulence. The members who always thought themselves protected by Krishna could readily convert to practical demonstration because it was sometimes found that sons of Krishna acts very unlawfully in various places but were nonetheless given full protection by Krishna and Balaram. Even Balaram, the elder brother of Krishna, sometimes unknowingly offered respect to him. Once, when Krishna came before Lord Balaram, Krishna was anxious to offer his respect to his elder brother, but at that time, Balarama's club was lowered down upon Krishna's lotus feet. In other words, the clubs in Balarama's hand offered its own respect to Krishna. These feelings of subordination, as explained above, are sometimes manifested as anubhava. When demigods from the heavenly planets came to Sri Krishna, all of the Krishna's sons followed them, and Lord Brahma sprinkled water from his kamandalu upon them. When the demigods came before Krishna, the sons, instead of sitting on golden chair, sat down on the floor, which was covered with deer skin.
Sometimes appear similar to the behavior of his personal servants. For example, the sons used to offer their obeisances. They were silent, submissive, and gentle, and they were always ready to carry out Krishna's orders, even at the risk of life. When present before Krishna, they bowed down on the ground. They were very silent and steady, and they used to restrain coughing and laughing before the Lord. Also, they never discussed Krishna's pastimes in conjugal love. In other words, devotees who are engaged in reverential devotional service should not discuss the conjugal love affairs of Krishna. No one should claim his eternal relationship with Krishna unless he is liberated. In the conditioned state of life, the devotees have to execute the prescribed duties as recommended in the codes of devotional service. When one is mature in devotional service and is a realized soul, he can know his own eternal relationship with Krishna. One should not artificially try to establish some relationship. In the premature found that a lusty, conditioned person will artificially try to establish some relationship with Krishna in conjugal love. The result of this is that one becomes prakritya sahajya, or one who takes everything very cheaply, Although such persons may be very anxious to establish a relationship with Krishna in conjugal love, their conditioned life in the material world is still most abominable. A person who has actually established his relationship with Krishna can no longer act on the material plane, and his personal character cannot be criticized. When Cupid came on one occasion to visit Lord Krishna, some devotee addressed him thus: My dear Cupid, because you have been so fortunate as to have placed your eyesight on the lotus feet of Krishna, the drops of perspiration on your body have become frozen and they resemble Kentucky fruits, a kind of small fruit found in thorny bushes. These are signs of ecstasy and veneration for the Supreme Personality of Godhead. When the princes of the Yadu dynasty heard the vibration of Krishna's Panchajanya conch shell, the hairs on their bodies immediately stood up in ecstatic jubilation. It seemed at that time that all the hairs on the bodies of the princes were dancing in ecstasy. In addition to jubilation, there are some symptoms of disappointment, sometimes symptoms of disappointment. Pradyumna once addressed Samba with these words: My dear Samba, you are such a glorified personality. I have seen that once when you were playing on the ground, your body became covered with dust, yet our father, Lord Krishna, on his lap. But I am so unfortunate that I could never get such love from our father. This statement is an example of disappointment in love. To regard Krishna as one's superior is called reverential feeling, and when in addition to this, a devotee feels that Krishna is his protector, his transcendental love for Krishna is increased, and his combined feelings are called reverential devotion. When this steady reverential devotion increases further, it is called love of God in reverential attraction and affection are two prominent symptoms of this stage. In this reverential devotional attitude, Pradyumna never talked to his father in a loud voice. In fact, he never so much as unlocked the lips of his mouth, nor did he ever show his face filled with tears. He would always glance only at the lotus feet of his father. Somebody else would like to read?
Okay, I can. There is another example of steady and fixed love for Krishna in the instance of Arjuna's informing him of the death of Arjuna's Abhimanyu, who was also the nephew of Krishna. Abhimanyu was the son of Subhadra, Krishna's younger sister. He was killed at the Battle of Kurukshetra by the combined efforts of all the commanders in King Duryodhana's army, namely Karna, Ashvatthama, Jayadrath, Bhishma, Kripacharya, and Dronacharya. In order to assure Krishna that there was no change of love on Subhadra's part, Arjuna informed him, although Abhimanyu was killed almost in your presence, Subhadra did it at all, nor has it even slightly changed its original color. The affection that Krishna has for his devotees was expressed by him when he asked Pradyumna not to feel so bashful before him. He addressed Pradyumna thus: My dear boy, just give up your feeling of inferiority and do not hang your neck. Just talk with me in a clear voice and do not shed tears. You may look straight at me and you may place your hands on my body without any hesitation. There is no need of exhibiting so much reverence before. Pradyumna's attachment for Krishna was always exhibited by his action. Whenever he was ordered by his father to execute something, he would immediately execute the order, taking the task as nectarian, even though it may have been poison. Similarly, whenever he would find something to be disapproved of by his father, he would immediately reject it as poison, even though it may have been nectarian. Pradyumna's attachment and anxiety for Krishna was his wife Rati. The enemy Shambhara is already killed. Now I am very anxious to see my father, who is my spiritual master, and who always carries the conch shell known as Panchajanya. Pradyumna felt great separation from Krishna when he was absent from Dwarka at the battlefield of Kurukshetra. He said, "Since my father has left Dwarka, I do not take much pleasure in practicing fighting, nor am I interested in any kind of sporting pastimes. And what need is there to speak of these things? I do not even wish to stay at Dwarka in the absence of my father." When Pradyumna came back home after killing Shambarasura and saw his father Krishna before him, he at once became so overjoyed that he himself could not understand his joy on that occasion. This is an instance of success in separation. A similar satisfaction was observed when Krishna returned from the battlefield of Kurukshetra to his home at Dwarka. All of his sons were so overjoyed that out of ecstasy they repeatedly made many mistakes. These mistakes were a sign of complete satisfaction. Every day Pradyumna looked over Krishna's lotus feet with tears in his eyes. These signs of reverential devotion on the part of Pradyumna may be described in the cases of other devotees.
Should we stop here?
What do you think, everybody? What exactly is the time? I don't have my watch.
It's 7:51.
And is the next chapter long or short? Can you see, or is it?
Yes, I'll just have a look. It's quite long.
Okay.
It's a whole new topic, fraternal devotion.
Wow. Nice.
Yeah, so ecstatic.
Yeah.
So we leave that for the next day then.
Because it's lengthy.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's nice working through these different rasas, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
I like it.
Yeah.
I just raised ahead there and I saw the section on devotional service and conjugal love is very short.